So superstar billionaire Elon Musk is now going to war with Apple. What's next? Let's talk about in today's video. Hi, I'm Mike Greiner. I'm a lifelong Democratic activist who's concerned about the direction our country is taking. I'm also a lawyer and an academic, and I'm here to help you stand up to the BS of the MAGA crowd. So Elon Musk is continuing on his tirade, attacking everybody left and right who could possibly stand in his way. His latest target is Apple. Probably not the wisest decision, considering the fact that Twitter and just about every app out there relies upon Apple to distribute their app via the App Store. In fact, right here is my iPhone, through which I got Twitter from the App Store. Indeed, when Elon tweeted out his attack on Apple, he tweeted it from an iPhone! Kinda makes you wonder the strategy behind all this. But I have to say, I don't know that Elon is really a strategy guy. Full disclosure, by the way, I'm actually a strategy professor at the university where I teach. So the whole idea of planning out how companies are going to pursue their strategy, that's kind of my area of expertise. And I see about as much of it from Elon Musk as I see from Donald Trump. In fact, I have to say, the whole acquisition of Twitter seems a whole lot more like a flight of whimsy than any kind of well-thought-out strategic move. We all know about how he's fired half the staff, how he overpaid for the company, sued to try to get out of the deal, something that I'd predicted a long time ago would be impossible, and to pay for the deal, loaded up Twitter with over $1 billion of interest payments it needs to make every year, despite the fact that it's already losing money. Sounds like a winning formula to me. So what it comes down to is Elon is desperate for more revenue, thus his whole charging people for that blue check mark. And there's even talk about charging people for subscriptions, which I gotta tell you might just be the end of my time on Twitter. It didn't take long, though, for Elon to zero in on one of the biggest drains of Twitter's revenue, and that's Apple. You see, Apple charges companies for being promoted on the App Store. And the way it works is that any revenue that these companies get from an app that's distributed through the App Store, well, 30% of that has to go to Apple. That's why, for example, if you had noticed this before, if you go onto the Amazon app or the Kindle app on your iPhone or iPad, you can't purchase your Amazon products directly through that app. You need to then separately go to the browser and do it through the internet. That's because if Amazon were to sell these products through the apps distributed in the Apple App Store, they'd have to pay 30% of those revenues to Apple, something that Amazon doesn't want to do. For Twitter thus far, it really hasn't been a problem because of the fact that they don't charge for anything, at least not anything that users get through the app. Twitter's revenues instead have come largely from advertising, and there is also a marketplace of people who buy access to the information generated by Twitter to be able to do research on people's interests and proclivities. None of that, though, is generated through the app. That would all change, though, if Elon starts charging for subscriptions. Suddenly, for every dollar of subscription money that comes in, he'd have to turn over 30 cents of that to Apple, something he doesn't want to do and can't afford to do under the circumstances. Thus, his attack on Apple. An attack that seems to confront Apple on two issues. Number one, that Apple has decided to reduce their advertising spending on Twitter since Musk took over. I can't imagine why they'd do that, considering that all the content moderation is basically gone from Twitter at this point. And number two, that Twitter might get banned from the App Store. Now, as everyone knows, the App Store has certain requirements, things like pornography or calls to violence cannot be sold through the App Store. That's a protection that many of us Apple users appreciate. And it's part of the reason that the right-wing social media site Parler had to make changes to its interface before it could get offered through the Apple App Store. Twitter, though, since Elon took over, aside from the fact that he fired the content moderation team and the customer security team, he's also shown himself to be a bit arbitrary and capricious in how he's enforced his commitment to free speech. For example, he says Donald Trump should be allowed back on the app, reinstating his account, and yet when Kathy Griffin dares to make fun of Elon Musk, oh, she's gone. So it's a decidedly limited view of freedom of speech that he's advocating for. But the biggest thing that strikes me about this is that Apple is not a company you want to go to war with if you have an app that is distributed through their store. There's a famous story that was portrayed in the Showtime series Super Pumped, in which Joseph Gordon-Levitt played Travis Kalanick, the founder of Uber, where he had to basically go to Apple's Cupertino headquarters and beg forgiveness from Tim Cook for violating the App Store's rules. Apparently, Kalanick knew that if Uber was banned from the App Store, that would be the end of Uber. Well, similarly, Elon Musk should be afraid, very afraid, of Apple. The one thing that Twitter has going for it is the fact that they've got a lot of users. Economists call that network externalities, where basically you belong to a network because all your friends belong to the network. It's why so few people actually leave Twitter, even after Musk took over, despite their threats to do so, myself included, by the way, because you don't want to go to a social network where there's no social networking going on. So you stay with Twitter because everybody's there. But if Twitter is no longer offered through the App Store, that would change everything, wouldn't it? Suddenly Mastodon and the other Twitter alternatives would look a lot more attractive. So it's not surprising that just a day after Elon sent out tweets attacking Apple, he sent out another tweet saying that he and Tim Cook were now all good, and Tim Cook had assured him that Twitter would not be banned from the App Store. That may be true in the short run, but Elon does have something to worry about. And that's the fact that Tim Cook has restated Apple's commitment to banning any kind of pornography or violence from apps that are distributed through the App Store. And as I said earlier, both those things are reappearing on Twitter ever since Elon took over. How much of it Apple's willing to put up with is yet to be seen. But one thing's for sure, and that's that Elon Musk's latest rant didn't go off as he had planned. Well, if you want to see a video how I predicted a long time ago that Elon Musk would lose in his effort to get out of the Twitter deal, check out this video over here. I'll see you then. In the meantime, let's hope for continued progress. Thanks.